I'm Katie Cowan, and this is the Creative Bean Podcast. For episode 70, my guest is Ananya Rao-Middleton, a freelance illustrator and chronic illness activist who uses her work to express herself post-brain injury and as someone living with MS. Her work is vivid, vibrant and explorative, focusing on the lived experiences of women living with the realities of chronic pain. Eye-catching colours and powerful affirmations are a common feature too, as Ananya describes herself as a feminist illustrator and an activist for people with invisible illnesses. Here we learn more about Ananya's journey and how she came to suffer herself, why it's important to speak up and share her experience to help others. She highlights the importance of rest and listening to our bodies. She also talks of discrimination, a lack of understanding, and how she's trying to turn that around, making people more aware of the invisible disabilities or illnesses that people might have. It's an important topic. Ananya also talks of her childhood, about bullying and racism, how that's made her a stronger person, able to cope with the challenges of today. She is so hopeful and positive that the creative community can be the force for good that brings about positive change. But first, a word from our sponsor for Season 3. Capture One creates world-class tools for editing, organising and working with photos. A leading innovator, Capture One strives to meet the needs of visual creatives everywhere. Go to captureone.com to find out more. Now for my chat with Ananya. Wow, thank you so much for coming on my show. It's lovely to meet you, Ananya.
Thank you so much, Katie. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, it's been a long time coming, this. I must admit, I didn't have a lot of energy to do anything over the summer after the couple of years we've had. So it's nice to come back to this new season with renewed, energy and excitement about the people I'm going to be talking to, the stories I'm going to be hearing. And you're doing so much good out there. Can you tell our audience what it means to be a chronic illness activist, first of all?
Absolutely. And thank you so much. This year has been such an incredible year. And I think there are so many exciting projects that I've been really, really blessed to work on. So I'm really happy about that. Being a chronic illness activist for me is kind of speaking truth to the experiences that I've had as someone who kind of had a chronic illness happen to them very suddenly in my life. And also to think about the ways in which we can make spaces more accessible for people with chronic illnesses, start up a conversation to talk about how that affects people's lives. It affects the way that we are able to work. It affects the way that we are able to exist in the world, and also to challenge ableism through my illustrations. So I think I see my role as an activist as being integrated with the work that I do as an illustrator as well.
Such important work. And like you said, you do suffer yourself. So you know firsthand the challenges you face on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. It's the spoon theory, isn't it? That not many people know about how people with chronic illness or a disability get only a certain number of spoons each day. Yeah. And then they have to decide how to use them. Exactly. And I think when we think about work and productivity, which is something that I think has become a really important topic, particularly during the pandemic, thinking about how many spoons that we have and protecting our energy levels is so important to us in the disability and chronic illness community. Definitely. And it's about understanding everybody's an individual and have got different needs. And, you can't just expect the entire kind of workforce to behave in the same way or get away with the same things. It's sort of making people aware that we all have different needs, really.
Exactly.
And I suppose many illnesses or disabilities are invisible. So that's another thing to overcome, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's something that I'm really passionate about because all the chronic illnesses that I have, or the couple of chronic illnesses that I have, are invisible. And that basically means that you can't look at me and think that I'm disabled necessarily. I think that a lot of people have ideas about what a disability looks like. And usually that's a physical disability, somebody with maybe a limb difference or who is using a disability aid like a wheelchair or a cane. But often people with illnesses or disabilities that are invisible don't necessarily look as if they're disabled in a traditional kind of stereotyped sense. But I think it's often also the understanding that disability can not only just be invisible, but it can also be dynamic, and that people with invisible illnesses and disabilities might one day be able to walk or run and be quite able-bodied, but then another day will need a disability prop or aid like a cane, or perhaps they can't walk that day and they need to lie down. And I think that just understanding that there's such a variety, a spectrum of experiences, and that disability is so nuanced and often depends completely on how that person experiences it.
Definitely. And when you think of the wider public, when people are out and about and they see people with a disability, it's almost... Because I think for reference, I should explain, one of my best friends uses a wheelchair, and I grew up with my mum's sister who had Down syndrome. So, I've been aware of some of the kind of injustices and stigmas that they faced. So my best friend who's in his wheelchair, people just make the assumption that he's not going to be an intelligent human being who can function and have a job. So these are the sort of things that they face on a regular basis, because people just don't understand. They just don't get it.
No.
I've been outside a shop with said friend, and somebody random's just come up to me and gone, "What's wrong with him?"
That's horrendous. Absolutely
what happened
horrendous.
To him?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm not sure I'm going to share that information with you, but, it's all right.
It's the entitlement, I think, that ableism creates in people who are non-disabled to make assumptions about our bodies, why we're disabled, are we disabled enough? And also, I think that there's an inherent sense of pity. And for me, that's really frustrating, because I think that there are so many kind of joyous moments that we experience. And, I just don't think that it's helpful to view disabled people as sob stories, or the polar opposite of that is like, oh, you're so inspirational. Your story has inspired me. And it's like, we're people that have ups and downs. We live really rich, full lives. And I think that stigma, like what you're describing, can just create a very 2D idea of what it means to be disabled that is harmful. So I think that for non-disabled people, it might just look like, one or two comments, but that can result in people dying. I think it's important to say that there was a US-based activist who actually died earlier this week because she had her wheelchair destroyed on an airline that she was using, and they switched it for another chair. But she died from injuries due to the wheelchair being switched because it wasn't fit for her body. No. And people don't understand that things that can, look like, sit in another chair, it'll be fine, can actually be completely detrimental to our health and well-being and our safety.
Yeah, I don't think people understand. And if I'm completely brutally honest, I don't think, had I not had a very good friend who uses a wheelchair, I don't think I would have been aware that actually there's different kind of types of cushions that you can get for them, which prevents things like bed sores and other kind of ailments that you can end up having, and that you have to have special mattresses, and that you can't lie too often on one side. You have to sort of regularly turn and go on another side if you're sort of bedridden for any amount of time. And there's all the other associated illnesses that come from having, some kind of disability in this way, that people are just not aware of. So that's where it goes back to the spoon theory. I mean, it's exhausting enough having to deal with people in real life, but it's exhausting sometimes just getting through the day. And my friend, he says, sometimes I just have 3 spoons and I have to say, okay, that'll get me lunch and that'll get me maybe a nice session on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
And maybe that'll get me a chat with a friend or whatever that might be. It's very frustrating when a lot of people just don't understand the difficulties and the challenges on a regular basis. So you mentioned your illnesses. Are you allowed to? Do you want to talk about them?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. I feel like they're really intrinsic to kind of my growth and development as an illustrator. I don't think that I would have had the opportunity to go into illustration had these things not happened to me, which sounds really strange, but it does give me a sense of gratitude. But essentially, I guess the story starts in late 2018. I went go-karting with the company that I was working for at the time, and I was involved in an accident and developed, yeah, it was a strange time. But I developed post-concussion syndrome, which for people who don't know what that is, essentially it's that your concussion symptoms don't go away. It can last for months, it can last for years. It is something that people can seek help with, but unfortunately, a lot of doctors just aren't trained to understand how it works or how to help people with post-concussion syndrome. So I had to do a lot of self-advocating for that. And while I was trying to seek help for what I was experiencing, which was basically, I felt like I was drunk for over half a year.
That isn't fun.
No, it's not. No, safe to say, I gave up alcohol and caffeine. But yeah, and at that time, I also had an MRI to try and figure out whether there was any existing inflammation in my brain that could help to explain why my concussion symptoms weren't going away. And it was quite a shock to me because I was expecting to talk about my brain injury when my consultant came back with the results, but actually they had found lesions in my brain that suggested that I have MS as well, which is multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
And
I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I just remember being really, really shocked at the time and totally panicked because it was just nothing I had considered before.
Of course not. I mean, how old were you when that was diagnosed?
2018, so that was like 3 years ago. I'm doing maths in my head. I'm like, I'm currently 28, and so yeah, I was about 25.
So young.
So young.
So young. But you're so positive, and you're obviously, I mean, we chatted before this podcast. I get the sense that you're the sort of person who will compartmentalize. You'll say, okay, this is what I've got and this is how I'm going to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Where does that resilience come from? Because there's real strength there.
Yeah. It's a really good question because I feel like I didn't really realize that I would be able to deal with this in the way that I have been able to deal with it. And it's almost like I discovered a side of myself that was kind of more determined and motivated than I ever had been, and really provided me with the strength to kind of get through it without kind of falling apart. And, you know, I think that a big part of that side of me really developed through a lot of the difficulties I had growing up. One of those things being that I initially grew up in London, in North London, in a really diverse neighborhood. And at some point when I was 10 or 11, my family decided to relocate to the Isle of Wight, which is a very small island just off the coast of England near Portsmouth and Southsea. And my sister and I were the only two children of colour in our school. And so we were bullied for years and years and years. And that was a really, really tough time. And I realized that I started to feel depressed when I was in year 9. So from year 9 until my early 20s, especially at university, actually, I was severely depressed and anxious. And I feel like that was actually my rock bottom. And so I had that almost as a reference point when I had my post-concussion syndrome and I was receiving all these different diagnoses, is that I knew that in spite of it being tremendously difficult, it wasn't my rock bottom. I had seen that before and I knew what it felt like. And so I feel like that gave me the strength and the kind of willpower to get through it and to self-advocate. Not to say that it wasn't extremely difficult, and it isn't still difficult because the self-advocation kind of never ends. It's a constant, and the managing of chronic illnesses is exhausting and something that you have to take into account every single day. But I still know that this isn't my rock bottom. I was able to overcome my depression in a really big way in my mid-20s, and just before I got my post-concussion syndrome. And so, I almost felt grateful that I just wasn't in that depression fog anymore, because that to me is just, it would have made it so much harder.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think obviously we were talking before, I can relate to the bullying anyway. It really kind of gives you so many tools for later in life. I can't speak for anybody that's been through bullying, and I suffered from it a lot when I was a kid, because some people might go the other way. But for me, all it's done is sort of made me feel compassion for myself, compassion for others, and this eagerness to understand why the world can sometimes be so unfair and cruel and not balanced. And, maybe that's my mission that I'm on. I'm trying to sort of give back and do some great things. I mean, it sounds like you and I are quite similar in that sense, because you're now doing that yourself through your art, which I guess is a form of escapism, but also you're using it to bring these issues to the fore and help others who might be in a similar boat.
Yeah, definitely. I really, really resonate with that. And I think I was reading about this a while ago, because I was trying to understand everything that I was going through with all the health stuff. And it's post-traumatic growth is what it's called. I think when you're able to try and make sense of a traumatic event that's happened to you, and that there are things that you experience from that event or from that period in your life that can actually be tremendously helpful and positive in terms of who you grow into. And so I really resonate with that as well, because I think that, being bullied for so long and the kind of racism that I faced meant that I went into university wanting to understand the kind of root causes of this, how it happens. I got really into social justice movements. I read a ton of feminist works by Black and brown authors, and it really put me in touch with the side of me that, I am a woman of color and I want to understand my position in the world. And I think that that's translated again really well into me becoming an illustrator, is that I don't see it as two separate things. I illustrate because I'm an activist. My work is inherently political all the time. I think that when I first started illustrating, which was a way to kind of cope with my brain injury, because I was painting, it was kind of the only thing I could do because I couldn't look at screens or anything like that. Right. Is that at that point it was a form of escapism, because I was housebound for months and months. I just couldn't do anything. I could barely, seeing people was exhausting. And so I created worlds in which I could kind of escape. But now for me, I think the main thing that illustration is for me is that it is a tool that I use for activism. It's a way to connect with people, to get them to stop and think about different issues. And to kind of explore what the day-to-day experiences are of people with disabilities and who live at the intersection of disability, gender, and race as well.
We're taking a short break to thank our sponsor for Season 3, Capture One. Based in Copenhagen, Denmark, Capture One is a powerful photo editing software that constantly innovates to give visual creators around the globe the ultimate creative tools. Use the code CreativeBoom to get a 10% discount on Capture One and start taking your photography to the next level. You can even try out the software for free with a 30-day trial to see just how it can elevate your editing and workflow. Go to captureone.com to find out more. Now, back to Ananya. Was there ever a point where you felt you weren't able to do that, that your voice wouldn't matter, that you would probably be best keeping quiet?
I actually felt like that more so when I was still working my day job. So before I became an illustrator, I was a marketing director for a while and also worked in consultancy. And in all of those jobs that I had, I felt really unable to speak my mind, because ultimately my boss didn't care about that. The work that I was doing was just geared towards making the client happy. And so I felt very restrained in that capacity. And I also felt like I wasn't able to be my authentic self. And I feel like just discovering illustration as a career path at the same time. And I was basically doing that on weekends and trying to do projects on weekends, which was really, really tough. But it meant that I was able to see that I could do that as a job, and that actually connected me more with who I am as a person, my voice, and what I want to say to people more authentically, and that I didn't have to hold back and I didn't have to kind of self-censor.
Yeah, and on top of all of the illness and the things that you have to deal with, you've managed to do that and found your voice, as you say, and that is just wonderful and should be celebrated. And now also giving back. You do remember to rest, don't you? I mean, there is a really lovely, powerful art that you shared on your Instagram called "Let Yourself Rest." I mean, that's a reminder to all of us, isn't it? Really.
It really is. And something that I almost illustrated it for myself as well.
Because I thought so.
Yeah, definitely. I was like, you will rest, but don't be so forceful that you didn't word it a bit nicer than that. Because I actually created that when I was working 2 jobs, my day job as a marketing director and then also illustrating on the side. So it was very much my own mantra that I tried to kind of live by. But it was really, really tough doing that outside of illustration. I feel like freelancing has actually allowed me to live more according to my health and my well-being than I've ever been able to before.
Yeah, definitely. I think a few people are discovering that, aren't they, with the pandemic? Many have taken the leap, or they've kind of taken a step back and realised they were running really fast and hard for many years. And actually, there's trouble at the moment, isn't there? People just sort of quitting their jobs. And if they were on furlough, they probably quite smartly saved up all that money and said, right, I'm going to take the opportunity to start something fresh, or even just take a break.
Exactly. And I'm all for that. I think that people should be quitting their jobs. I know that it seems kind of as like a crisis, but I don't think that the actual act of quitting the job is the crisis. The crisis is creating work environments that are so inhospitable that people are quitting their jobs to find something that actually works for them and that actually centers their well-being and their needs.
I think it will shake up many businesses, make managers and bosses and business owners maybe sort of really have a think about how they've been running things up until this point and how they can improve things now. And we're not suggesting that these people are evil. Like, it goes back to what we were talking about before with my friend who goes around Manchester in his chair. And people just not understanding or realising because they've not actually experienced it themselves. So we can give them a little bit of leniency, but it's kind of, we're coming up to 2022. And I feel really positive about all the kind of shifts that have happened over the last couple of years. I feel like things are moving in the right direction, but then I have days where I feel like they're not. How do you feel things are now?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I think it's always tough sometimes to feel positive about the way that things are going, because it's been a tough few years. But the thing that I am hopeful about is that it feels like there is a very strong push and for everybody to get politicized and to understand these issues on a deeper level. It feels like more people are willing to participate and understand and listen. Which is hopeful, but I think there's so much groundwork that still needs to be done. And the difficulty is, I guess, is that, the structures around us are so strong in terms of the society we live in, the fact that corporations have such a kind of a big sense of, I guess, influence on the direction of our societies. And I think the only thing that we can do really is kind of try and challenge that from a grassroots level. So yeah. I think that is happening, but I think there's still a lot more to kind of come.
Yeah, definitely. I think, this is where the creative community can have so much power.
Definitely.
It's really encouraging to see some of the kind of things that are happening out there. There's a PR agency called Zetler who are running something called Design Can, and that's been going for a few years. To try and sort of encourage more diversity and inclusion in the creative community and elsewhere. And There's something that Handsome Frank, which is an illustration agency in Cambridge, I think they're based, and they're doing something to encourage. I think they've started a kind of group of agencies that are sort of, weighted behind this positive mission to do the same. And so you're seeing all these little things springing up everywhere over the last few years, even before the pandemic.
Definitely.
And that is really encouraging. And what I love the most is whenever I sort of see a creative at the moment that I like the work of, and I'll go on their site and I'll have a look. I came across something this morning and it was like, for every project we do, we donate to this charity. Or somebody else I saw the other month, it was something like they planted a tree for every identity they created, or I don't know, something small like that. And these are people who live in like little towns and little cities outside of London and might not be making millions, but they're just doing something, and they're really thinking about how they operate their business, the people they work with. The amount of messages that slide into my DMs from just wonderful human beings who'll say, "Oh, Katie, did you notice that this person has just done this? You should write about them." And it's especially encouraging when it's coming from, a certain demographic of the creative community, because you think, yes, that's brilliant. That's what we need. We need men champion women, people of colour white people encouraging people to, start again. You know what I'm trying to say?
I know exactly what you're trying to say. Yeah, white people championing people of colour. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just, like looking around at the world and saying, I need to do something positive and give back and realise that it's not just about me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the creative industry is a place that can really shape and make an impact, because we're surrounded by art, we're surrounded by visual and incredible pieces of illustration and graphics and animation. It's everything that we consume and everything that we use. And I feel like we're kind of at the forefront of the ability to create change that can really impact people and get people thinking. So that's a really exciting idea. And I'm really familiar with the Agents for Change initiative that I think Handsome Frank and a couple of others have been involved with. And I think that's really awesome and so important, because sometimes, young illustrators and creatives from marginalized backgrounds often just don't feel like the creative industry is for them. And so having people there who are saying, no, give it a shot, come in, and welcoming them in is a really important thing, because, at many kind of points, especially when you're young and you're trying to think about whether to go to university or like what course to do, it's so easy to turn away from your passion because you don't feel like it's for you. And I think for so long, and even now, that a lot of industries do feel inaccessible for certain demographics. So to have people there to talk to you, to welcome you in, I think is just really, really important as a first step. And that seems to be happening, which is great.
I mean, it's so powerful, isn't it, when we get to see somebody who is in an industry that we're thinking of going into. I remember people coming to do talks at our school, and there'd be a woman that came in who ran a business, and I was just like, oh, I could do that one day, and it's just so powerful, so subtle, so small, but massive. And I guess from your point of view, I mean, I'm coming on nearly 20 years older than you, so I'm hoping things have moved on a little bit in our generations. But in the content and the people and the things that you were growing up with in the Isle of Wight and on television and movies and books and things, did you see a lot of yourself in those kind of stories, those narratives?
No, not really. Sadly, I really struggled with that a lot. And I think that it's really evidence actually when I look back at my sketchbooks and things like that from school, because I wasn't drawing people of color. I wasn't drawing people who looked like me. All of the people in my books were white, and I just felt really sad for my younger self because, and I do think that that's also because I was being physically rejected by kids around me. And so almost like my ideals around what people look like and things like that were reflected in the kind of artwork that I was creating. And And also, in the kind of things that we consume on TV and in games, I just didn't feel very represented at all. And it wasn't until university when I started to get connected with other women of color who looked like me or who didn't look like me. And I started to read more works by diverse authors and academics, that I started to really see how and feel how important it is to have that, not just the representation, but to have the ideas that we have, to listen to the lived experiences that resonate with my own. And it builds up a sense of self-belief, I think, that's really, really important. I think that we are living through a really important historical moment right now where, everything is kind of being challenged in a way that it should be. And I think that we have to kind of pay homage to Black Lives Matter for being a catalyst with a lot of that. But it's kind of coming at a very late stage. It should have happened a long time ago. And obviously, these kind of different social movements, especially around anti-Black racism, there's been so much important grassroots work that a lot of us haven't seen, that's happened for decades and decades and decades, that have kind of built us to this moment. And so I hope that really that helps younger people. Now, I'm not saying I'm old, I'm like 28, but kids that are going through
You're
school.
a wise soul.
A wise soul. Like, I hope the kids nowadays. But I hope that, kids that are at school, who are going into university, who, are trying to figure out what they want to do with the rest of their lives, that they feel more able to occupy space, to take up space, and to feel like that's theirs. Because I felt apologetic for being in a lot of spaces because I didn't feel like it was my space.
Yeah, like you're tiptoeing around and don't want to cause a fuss and don't want to speak up. Just want to sort of like get your head down and crack on, which is awful because we all deserve a place at that table.
Exactly.
All of us. And you're right. And there's so many conversations happening now that just weren't happening before. I mean, are you finding that you're just talking about these things more than ever, and it's wonderful? Because I think it's wonderful. I'm talking to my friends of colour about things that I never thought I was allowed to talk to them about before, and ask them things that I didn't realise that they faced, on a regular basis.
I feel like the main change for me is feeling more able to talk about these things as part of the work that I do without any repercussion, any silencing or a backlash, because I feel like in previous jobs that I've had, I think before this moment, and I do think that only just kind of happened last year, whenever we would try to talk about racism, try to talk about different intersectional issues in the workplace, we were very much silenced. And that's something that I've experienced in several different jobs, where there's been a lot of racism, a lot of sexism, and we just haven't felt, especially women of colour in the office, just haven't been able to speak their truths. So now I feel like I feel a lot more empowered to be able to do that. I do, again, think that it's quite different when you're your own boss as a freelancer. It means that, a big part of what I do is talking honestly, is talking about racism, talking about ableism, talking about sexism, and through an intersectional feminist lens. I don't know if I was in specific jobs that, that would be as easy. So I think that there's still a lot of obstacles to overcome, especially in places of work, because you can really hold people hostage with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of change going on, and it's super positive and really important. And then there's things that are happening, in areas of the creative community where we're seeing children's books diversify. And there's more stories, more diverse stories. And they've actually found that people want that, not just people of colour, It's wonderful. So Dapo Adeola is doing this wonderful series of books. Look Up, I think, was his first.
Yeah.
And that's long time coming, really. It's just wonderful. So it's encouraging to know the children of today are growing up and seeing themselves in the content that's being produced by the creative industry. And who knows where we'll be in, a few decades' time.
Yeah.
It's a great time to be alive, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And I just want to say a shout out to Dapper because I really love his work and the joy that he instills in the stories and the illustrations that he creates is just amazing and so important. And it does give me a lot of hope. And I talk to a lot of people within the world of children's books, and I think there's a lot of positivity there. There's also a lot of people who are willing to put in the work and who are seeking out illustrators and writers to create those kinds of diverse stories. And I think that's really important as well, is making sure that the publishers are willing to change and see the things that they need to do in order to create that change.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's power in art, as we've seen, with your own kind of wonderful artworks that you're always sharing on Instagram, which inspire me and I'm sure inspire many others. What do you hope people will get out of it? What do you hope they sort of feel from seeing those beautiful illustrations?
I think for me, with my illustrations, there are different people that I kind of want to affect in different ways. So for people who look at my work and who are disabled and chronically ill, I want them to feel seen, and I want them to feel like their story is not in isolation and that they're not alone. I want them to feel connected to a community, because I feel like that was the most important thing for me in my journey, is connecting with other people within the disability community and not feeling alone anymore. So I kind of want to reflect my work back at them so that they feel that way. And then I think for people who exist at the intersection of other different things, particularly for women of color, I think I'm so passionate about illustrating beautiful women of color, and including a lot of that in my work, I think to do justice to my younger self, but also to just kind of like create those beautiful images and put it out there and make people feel good when they see it. And yeah, I think that I want people to feel good when they see my artwork. I want them to start to kind of think about things a bit differently. I want to start conversations around, disability, race and gender, how those all interact with each other, because I think that's a really, really important thing that's often overlooked. Mm-hmm. And the disability space can be really, really white. So that's kind of why, very deliberately, I illustrate a lot of disabled people of color, Black people and Indigenous people, because that's a nuance that's kind of missing from that story.
Yeah, you're right. You're so right. And it's not something, you kind of realize until you really start looking at all of the content that's out there. There's just such a need for more kind of more stories, more people that look like everybody, that represent everybody. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be some people listening to this who are obviously, hoping to follow in your footsteps, because you're now making a full-time career of illustration. Freelancing and coping with all the challenges that brings. What kind of advice would you give to them that you've learned, because you've realised you're made of tough stuff? You're coping with running a business despite the fact that you have these invisible illnesses. What advice would you give to others?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I think for me, the main thing would be to plan ahead. So before I decided to jump into freelance, I really spent a lot of time figuring out my finances. And it sounds kind of boring or maybe something that people say a lot, but I think this is specifically very, very important for people with disabilities, because we do have to spend more money than non-disabled people on our health, whether that's supplements, medication, physio. Different kind of, physio, equipment, aids, etc. It's really, really, really important to take all of those things into account when planning ahead to make the leap to becoming freelance. And I think that can actually be a really rewarding thing to do, because when I started doing that, when I was working my full-time job as well, it was amazing to actually see that I started to hit the forecasted financials that I wanted to month by month. And
Great.
that was the point where I was like, yes, okay, I can do this. I can pay for all my medical stuff and make a living from illustration. So, you know, don't underestimate how important planning your financials is. I think it's actually a really empowering thing to do before you make the leap. The other thing as well is that you can never ask for enough advice. Just keep talking to people. I think that you'll find that the illustration community and the creative community overall are really friendly, always up for chatting. I've been really lucky to have a lot of really lovely illustrators who've been doing this for a really long time, who've given me time to answer all of my 1,000 questions.
Oh, bless.
And yeah, I've really appreciated that, and it's helped me in so many ways. So I think reaching out to people who you admire or who you aspire to be like within the community, most of the time they will, you know, give you some time to get in touch. And I think it's just so valuable to have that.
It's really encouraging, isn't it, when sometimes we do come across a little bit of negativity in what we do. You know, we can't sort of ignore that. There is, you know, I was telling you about some of the things I've been dealing with this morning, which I won't go into. But then you sort of message a friend that works in the same field as you, and you tell them what's happened, and then they tell you something similar has happened to them that morning, and you just both have a laugh and remember why you sort of started doing this in the first place, and go back to your kind of passion and realize that actually, even though it can get tough sometimes, it can sometimes feel like we're on our own. There is this wonderful, creative, supportive community out there who are, you know, have our backs really.
Definitely.
That keeps me going. You know, after all those years of bullying in school and trying to sort of figure out the world, and it's nice to know that, you know, I'm not alone talking to you and realizing where I get my strength from, where you get your strength from. Mm-hmm. We've both kind of sort of built successful careers despite everything, you know, the challenges we face.
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, that was my oh my God. That was my Apple Watch. Oh my goodness me, technology, eh?
Oh my God, that was really funny.
I might keep that in.
Yeah.
She does that now and again. She just randomly talks to me. Maybe she understands I'm distressed talking about the bullying. Maybe her heart rate goes up and it goes, I'm not sure I understand.
Maybe, yes. She's trying to resonate. She's like, I never went through that because I'm a robot, but.
Oh, I know. And you know, it's just so lovely talking to another woman as well. You know, I always like to tell people when they ask me about the podcast, I have really lovely chats, but I have really interesting chats when the record button's not happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
We really get into things, but it's just amazing to have these conversations. And you're right, you know, feeling like you have that place in the world, and knowing that you deserve to have your voice heard. That can feel also quite challenging at times. Still today, even after all the kind of cultural shifts that have been happening, there's still that kind of voice in our heads, isn't there? That's like, oh, you know, do you really want to be saying this? Am I allowed to say it? You know, because of the sexism that I was telling you I dealt with just this morning.
Yeah.
You know, but we deserve to be there, don't we, my love?
Oh, absolutely. We do. And we have to keep, and if we have to keep telling ourselves that, then we should and we must. Because I think that there's kind of a confidence that we have to instill in ourselves when our environments don't instill that in us.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think it's wonderful that despite everything you've been through, you're here and you're talking and you're smiling and you look really well.
Oh, thank you. The sunshine is doing me good.
Sunshine, where are you?
I'm in Lisbon right now.
Oh, I didn't realise.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And is it nice and warm?
It is during the day, and then at night it gets freakishly cold because of the lack of central heating. So it's like as soon as the sun sets, I feel like I'm boarding up my flat for like a zombie invasion. So I like close all the windows. I put on like my socks and my jumper and everything. And I'm like, right, I'm gonna survive the night.
Hang on, you mentioned one of my favourite words ever, zombie.
Oh, zombie fan.
Yeah, massive.
I do love a zombie movie.
Brilliant. What's your favourite?
Okay, I love Train to Busan. Do you know the Korean movie?
It's so good. The thing I love about it the most is that it was very low budget, and the character development. I mean, as you well know, sorry, you've got me on a subject that I'm very close to. But the character development in a horror film is really difficult to get right because you've only got a certain amount of time and you can't really build too much up because it's more about the monsters and the action and all the rest of it. But that Korean movie just manages to do it beautifully. That's the best zombie film I've ever seen.
I've never cried and simultaneously been so scared in a zombie film, because usually, as you say, you don't really get too attached to the characters. There's not that kind of character arc. It's mostly just like, shit, we need to run away from these zombies. But it's incredible. That's definitely one of my favorites.
I know. And it's that moment, and I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but it's that moment when they're under the train and they just share that kind of look, because he was such a hero, wasn't he? And it's like, oh my God, no. And then, like, we've kind of been through something like this in the last couple of years and seen some of that humanity, haven't we? We've seen some ugliness as well, but we've seen great humanity.
Absolutely.
It's inspiring stuff. So now, of course, I have to ask you, have you seen Squid Game?
Oh, have I? I loved Squid Game. I mean, that also made me cry buckets.
I know, me too.
It was exceptional. It was, the social commentary behind it. And I wonder as well, I only kind of know these things because my sister lives in Seoul. She's been living there for like 7 years or so. It's very, very political. It talks about a lot of different issues in Korea, like very subtly.
Oh, right. So that I'm assuming a homelessness problem,
debt kind of is huge. It's a really big problem.
Debt's a huge problem, because I don't know too much about South Korea or what kind of welfare system they have, if anything at all.
Yeah.
But, when I went to California a couple of years ago, I was in Santa Monica visiting friends. Very lucky. And I wandered around, I had a day to myself one day, and I wandered around and I went to use one of the bathrooms, one of the toilets on the beach. And I accidentally opened the door on a gentleman and said, "Oh, I'm really sorry." And I closed it and then found another loo. And then obviously afterwards was washing my hands. And the gentleman was there and he looked like a younger Tom Selleck. He was gorgeous. He had no shoes and his trousers were sort of ripped a little bit. He was absolutely beautiful looking man. And he just turned to me and I sparked up a conversation. I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. That was me before. Guilty as charged." And he smiled and said, "No, it's no problem." And he washed his hands. And then he turned to me and he had in his hand a little kind of plastic gem. And he started to say, "I've got this lovely plastic gem." And I looked at him and I said, "Oh, no, it's okay. You don't need to sell me that. I've got some spare cash." So I pulled out whatever I had in my pocket and gave it to him. And I said, "Anyway, you have a good day. It was lovely meeting you and sorry about the loo situation." And off I went. Yeah. And he sort of shouted out after me. And I turned round and there was just this moment where we were looking at each other. And he just sort of screwed his eyes up a little bit and he sort of hesitated and then he just pointed after me and he said, "You have a good day too." I said, "Yeah, I will. Take care." And then I went and found a bench nearby. I sat down and just burst out crying because there's a massive homelessness problem in California, because if you get into trouble, if you just suddenly don't have any income, or if you lose your house, that's it. There's not really, as far as I'm aware, there's not really anything that's going to scoop you back up. Not like here. No. So I don't know what it's like with your sister in South Korea, but yeah, Squid Game. I bawled. I cried my eyes out.
Honestly, it was so incredible. And I think in South Korea, because of the history of the Korean War and how influential America was over there, it's very similar to America. They don't have a welfare state. Medical care is privatized, etc. So yeah, a lot of like parallels between the two countries, unfortunately.
Yeah, sad. It's sad. So what does your sister do that's taken her to Seoul?
She's a teacher. So she teaches kids. She studied Korean and music at school, and she's currently also training to be a DJ, which is super cool. Yeah.
What kind of music? What does she love?
She really loves grime. So she's instilling like bits of UK into the kind of Korean DJ scene, which is really cool.
Oh, that is super cool. And is that something you like as well, or are you kind of, into different sort of genres?
We're like quite different people in a lot of ways. I'm like a complete mix of music. I just like a whole ton of different stuff. Like I listen to a lot of like Bollywood songs. I listen
very romantic, aren't they?
Yeah, very romantic. It helps me kind of remember like Hindi a bit. And I listen now because I'm in Lisbon. I try and listen to like a lot of, I prefer Brazilian kind of music.
Yes. So joyful.
So joyful, so much fun. So that's helping me with the language a bit as well. Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place with my music.
Yeah, I am. I've got a very eclectic taste. It's just nice, isn't it, to listen to different things, to spark different moods. I just get bored as well really easily. So I'm like, I'll dip into that. I'll have a go at that. There's a really good website which you might like. I'll send you the link. I think it's called, I can't remember what it's called. Every music genre ever made or something like that.
Oh.
And you can like click on it and it'll give you a sample. It's just like one of those. Do you remember those tag clouds we used to have on blog? Well, mind you, you're only 20. You're only 28. You won't remember that.
I do. We did. Yeah. Because I was really quite early into blogging because my dad is a tech nerd and was like, you need to get on Blogger when I was like really young. And I was like, okay, Dad. So I just used to blog about my cat. But I do remember those little.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like that. It's like a tag cloud, a text cloud of all the different things. And there's like types of genres of music in there that are just bonkers and weird and wonderful. And I'm like, oh, what does that sound like? I didn't realize there's that and that's mixed up with this. And yeah, it's wonderful. I'll send you the link.
Please send that. It sounds incredible. I'm going to be like on that for the rest of the day.
Oh, well, this has just been so lovely to chat with you and find out more about what you're up to and what you're doing. And is there anything we should know about that you're going to be, telling us about next or...
Yeah. This has been absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much for having me on here. I'm actually going to be illustrating my first children's book early next year. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Oh, that's amazing. Can you talk about the author? Who is it? It's not, are you writing it as well, or?
Oh, no, just illustrating. I can't reveal anything yet because we're still in very early stages, but just watch this space and I'll definitely reveal more when I can, but I'm super excited.
Now that explains why your face lit up when I mentioned children's books before. Well, that's great news. So we'll definitely write about that when you can tell us more, and can't wait to see what you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today. It's been lovely chatting with you.
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely a pleasure, Katie, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
To find out more about Ananya Rao-Middleton, go to our show notes at creativeboom.com/podcast. That's where you can also subscribe and enjoy weekly episodes from us every Monday morning. Thanks again to our sponsor, Capture One, one of the most powerful photo editing softwares out there. Use Creative Boom for a 10% discount or sign up for a free 30-day trial at captureone.com. In next week's show, I'll be meeting Dave Smith, a designer and developer interested in privacy, type, and ethics.